Hello there, Chris Piercy here of Wedding Industry Wisdom. Our first ever scheduled live will be going live, starting the conversation properly in just a couple of minutes. So we're going to give Jack, of course, a chance to join in because without him it's a one-way conversation, which is not half as interesting as it might sound. And obviously we want a whole bunch of you guys to join us as well and see how many people get going on. There's no particular plan for what we're going to talk about today, so it's almost entirely reliant on whoever turning up and helping the conversation move along. So hopefully someone will join in just a minute. At the moment I'm talking to no one. And we have someone watching. That could be Jack. It could be someone else. Let's see who it is. Jack. So there we go. Jack is joining in, being added as we speak, and we'll see how much Facebook decides to favour us on this first ever scheduled live. Taking a bit longer than I'd like to add him in, but we'll see what happens. Oh, and Jack's there with his headphones and his giraffe in the background.
As always.
As always. But it's a bit weird because that's on the other side to when I was Skyping you earlier. So.
Oh yeah, I like to move it around just for you.
Just mess with my head.
Pretty much, yeah.
So there's no one watching, so it's a good start.
Okay, hang on. We are a little bit early though, so we'll give people a chance to join us.
Yep. And I've explained that there's no agenda. I've not started recording yet.
Okay. I pull my stuff down. Oh, you can't see me if I do that, can you? That's very sad for you guys. Trying to get this all looking like I might know what I'm doing. Right. Okay.
That'll work until you open your mouth.
Thank you. Oh yeah, my complete lack of knowledge of anything will give away the fact I don't really know what I'm doing, won't it?
You just say words and filling out. Julie Nunn has joined us. Good evening, Julie. How are you?
Good evening.
We are going to wait and see if a couple of people join us, and then we are going to start kicking things off. So, are you well, Julie?
We're going to sing. I'm not singing this evening, no. We have got. There is a reason why the mic is here. We will come on to that very shortly as a few more people start joining us, and I continue setting this up. Chris will carry on talking.
We were up momentarily to a huge amount of 3 people watching live, and then it's dropped back down to 1 again. I'm well enough, thank you very much, Julie. Looking forward to lighting how it goes is a scheduled thing, because as most of you will know who are watching this either live or watching it back, it is our first time we've actually scheduled it. So that because obviously the more people we have watching, the better the engagement, the better we can serve you all is the plan. How close are you to being ready, Jack?
I'm ready to go now.
You're ready to go now.
I just didn't have my bits set up, so.
Ooh. How about that?
Ooh, matron. I
know. So should we crack straight on then? Oh, well,
yeah, I realise.
Julie, as you're the only person watching at the moment, is there anything particularly like us to talk about? And we'll go into that. If not, then I had a backup plan of what we can talk about. So Julie, if there is anything in particular you'd like us to speak about, then we will speak about that. Give you a second. And how's my back? My back is much the same, unfortunately, but it's still attached. So that's always a bonus. Let's give Julie a minute to respond to that. I'm going to hit the red button over here.
Oh, sorry, I disappeared for a second
there. And move my microphone a little bit closer as well. See how that goes. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me well?
Cool. Yes, I can. Sorry, I disappeared for a second there. Not really sure what went on, but I'm back. So
yeah. Right. Shall I crack on? Hi there. My name's Chris Piercy, and welcome to Wedding Industry Wisdom. I am joined as ever by Mr. Jack Brister. Say hello, Jack.
Hello, Jack. Joke never gets old, does it?
It got old the first time you ever used it. In fact, I think halfway through the first time we ever used it, it was already tiresome because we already knew what it was going to be, and it was horrendous then. So, yes, welcome to this first ever scheduled live. There's no particular format or plan for this whatsoever. It's just going to see who turns up, see what they ask, and see where it goes. as we had no suggestions prior to what we're going to talk about, I thought I'd better come prepared with some sort of small backup plan, so I've done that. Did you have anything planned at all, Jack?
Absolutely not. I
Okay,
quickly
so
want to. I just want to mention, if you are watching us live, you will see these microphones in front of us. Well, you see mine, you can't see Chris's, but that's because Chris's is slightly better, so we can be a bit further away from it. There it is. Just coming into view there. Reason we've got these out is because we are recording this. We're recording the audio of this, so we can put it out as a podcast. Hopefully later on this week, you'll be able to download this and listen to it. If you not this week.
no, I'm just very, very disappointed that you didn't bother to listen to anything I said or anything I put in the text or the live, that we would have a big announcement at the end of the episode, which you've now completely ruined. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so that
I
that
didn't.
that
I didn't read the text. No.
that was our. Well, I thought we'd pre-discussed this. That was our
No.
bait. That was our hook to keep people watching until the end. Now,
Oh well, now they've got no reason to watch. They might as well go
but
home.
basically, Julie's going to leave straight away because she's going to have had enough already. So yeah, she's going to leave straight away. Honestly, Jack is just horrendous. But there we go. Anyway, I feel like people have been listening long enough to feel that they should have received some sort of useful information so far. So my backup plan, if we didn't have anyone asking anything in particular, was to talk about action or lack thereof. I think that it's really important within your wedding business to be moving forwards always be doing something or other. Now, this doesn't have to be anything huge, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but if you just sit there with the systems that you've got in place and the things that you are there, unless they're working absolutely perfectly, then there should always be some sort of action or something to move you forwards in some way. Because basically, if you don't do something, whatever that might be, then what will happen is business will start declining. You can't just leave your business to sit there doing nothing. There always has to be something going on for improvement. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Is that controversial? Is it?
I think I didn't quite catch all of it because my Google Home started making a load of noises, so I had to turn it off.
You're on fire today with your.
Oh, you're so glad you've got me here, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that people just, well, I mean, it happened to me when I first started. Is I just assumed I'd sit here and the phone would ring and stuff would happen and I wouldn't have to do any work. It would just happen. I wouldn't need to take any action. And it took nearly years to realise that that's not the case. So I think it's something that a lot of people fall into that trap of assuming that things are going to happen without having to do any action at all, not do any work.
Yeah, so I always think that there should be something going on, and the only reason to not have something going on is because you've got everything absolutely perfect. And I don't think I think people would be absolutely naive to think that at any point they've got everything absolutely nailed and sorted, because, even if it is the case that you've got everything sorted in your business, there is always going to be change outside of the business. For instance, one of the tactics which I'm really get a lot of great results out of on Instagram may very soon become completely redundant if Instagram makes some changes that are being tested at the moment. If that happens, I'm going to have to come up with a completely new tactic for getting work from Instagram, which in which case there's two different roads you can take. You can either sit there and bitching and moaning about the fact that this tactic doesn't work anymore, or you be proactive and you come up with a new tactic. So even if you think, I'm going to sit and rest on that, the outside world changes around. It's things like that change within the wedding industry. For instance, the fact that finally outdoor ceremonies are going to be a thing without everything having to be licensed or whatever the rule. What was the exact rule change? Do you remember?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it was to do with being able to get married outside. I don't really remember much more beyond that, if I'm honest.
I think it was something along the lines of it wasn't the venue that had to be registered anymore. It was just the person. So the person could conduct the ceremony wherever they wanted to. So that is obviously going to be a massive change for people in terms of where they are going to be able to operate their ceremonies, because at the moment it is kind of very, very limited to certain buildings or certain places, and now it's going to open up basically limitless options, which is going to open up a whole new revenue stream for like stylists, florists, and people in that side of the business, which is then going to inherently potentially move budget away from other parts of the business. So if you're just sitting there still not doing anything within your business, eventually, one way or the other, things will start declining. So you always need to be doing something to move forwards.
Yeah, I think that particular example will see a massive increase in people getting married on their own home, in their own house,
Yeah.
and in like garden marquee weddings and that kind of thing. I think there'll be a massive increase in that, which for venue stylists and florists, and as you said, those kinds of people are in for a great time because they'll be given essentially a blank canvas. With a lot of venues, they have bits and pieces already in place, but these guys will essentially be working with nothing. They'll be working with an empty marquee and get to create whatever they want. So that particular example, I think, is a really good one within our industry for people who are looking to get started. There's great bit of information there. But yeah, you absolutely have to be on top of your game, and you have to keep up to date with everything. Because we're not going to go into this at all, but you need to kind of have an understanding as to what's going on with Brexit and those kind of things as well. Because if you're not keeping up to date with that, then if you're a supplier who has to buy in stock and that kind of stuff, it's going to affect the prices of that, which is then going to affect your prices. Florists especially, you need to be on the ball with latest news and information so that you're able to make informed decisions moving forwards. I was listening to the radio. I spent a lot of time in the car today driving places, and I was listening to, I think it was the Jeremy Vine show. I don't think Jeremy was on. It was Vanessa What's-Her-Face instead. And they were talking about the car companies that are looking 2 or 3 years ahead and talking about how Brexit's going to affect that and how they are starting to move away because of those implications that could happen because of it. So you kind of need to be thinking like that, and you need to have that forward-thinking head going when you are looking at the latest news and information so that you're able to make informed decisions.
Yeah, and this is the sort of thing that needs to be thought about like tomorrow, not in 6 months' time or something like that. Because if you worry about it when it is a problem, then the chances are, it's probably already too late because, it's so certain preparations need to be put in place where possible. But yes, we're definitely not opening up that can of worms on the podcast or the
No, definitely not. But it is something that needs to be thought about,
and if something that people need to be considering.
Yeah, and not just that, anything in the news that is even remotely relevant to your particular business and what you're doing and what you're running at the moment. I was just about to add a really good point, and now I've completely forgotten it. So it can't have been that good at all, can it?
Well, if you remember it, then you can pop in. So, just to kind of let you know what I'm doing at the moment, just to keep things moving forwards. And I think this is the thing that I think it's really important to understand about me and about Jack as wedding suppliers, is that by no way are we kind of multi-millionaires living incredibly lavish lifestyles. We are, okay, Jack is a multi-millionaire. So no, we are decent people making a decent living out of primarily wedding work. So we don't have people going out and doing all the work for us while we lay on a beach in Mexico. We are the ones going out and performing still. We are the ones dealing with, the back end of the business. Mostly Jack has an assistant that helps him with some of the bits and pieces within his business, but we are still, we're not multi-millionaires or something like that. So we are still in the situation where we are continuously trying to improve all areas of our business. So whilst we are giving advice and selling courses and all that sort of good stuff, we are still actually learning ourselves. And because I think if you ever think that you've learned everything, then you know even less than you think you know. So
yeah,
for instance, within my own business at the moment, and this is one of the things I should have done this about 3 years ago, but I didn't. But I finally set up an RSS feed for my website, which means that I can get an email list built up. And the RSS feed wasn't preventing me from having an email list, but it was preventing me from sending out content to those people because I didn't want to have to write out individual emails every time I wanted to send something out. So the RSS feed will look for new content on my site and send it out on a scheduled basis. So that is something which, because I get a lot of people reading my blogs and visiting my blog and reading the content. So that's what the Google Analytics tells me. So I'm then probably got this colander effect where some people are kind of slipping through that like net or whatever and never to be spoken to again. And there's some people who will inquire at that stage. But if I've got if someone enjoys reading some of your content, then you should be absolutely giving them the chance to receive more of that content on a regular basis. And I simply was not doing that. So, I mean, the tens of thousands of people that have been onto my blog in the last 2-3 years, I've potentially lost a lot of them by not having that in place. So this week I finally decided, right, I'm going to get that done, and it was a hell of a lot easier than I thought it was going to be as well.
Yeah. Good evening, Denise. Nice to see you. So very quickly, in a sentence or two, just for those of us who don't know what an RSS feed is, could you tell us just very quickly what that is? Obviously, people can go away and Google it, find out more about it, but just very quickly, what is it and what does it mean for your business?
In the most simplest terms, in terms of my understanding of it, it is essentially, it is something which scans through your site and looks for new content that has been published, and then it then can relay that information to various different places. So yeah, that could be as an email to an email list, or it could be to populate a certain page on a website, or something like that. I mean, is that simple enough?
In very, very simple terms, that is what it is. Yeah, an RSS feed will do it all automatically, and that's the beauty of it. That's why That's why you haven't done it, is because you were at a time you were writing blog posts every week. I know you're not at the moment, but you're hoping to get back into doing that. So if you're then writing a blog post every week, you're writing 800,000 words, something like that, every single week. And then you have to go and write an email about it and then send it off to everybody. It's an extra couple of steps that get in the way. So the fact you've now put that in place to sort of automate that process is great. And the great thing is you can do this completely free of charge as well. You've done it for free, haven't you? You've done it through MailChimp, which means it doesn't cost you a penny.
Yeah, I've done it with the WordPress thing that I'm using. I think WordPress does it pretty much automatically anyway. But and then set it up through MailChimp. It took maybe an hour to make it look how I wanted it to look. I mean, it's the only disadvantage I found so far is you can't make it look particularly pretty without some severe coding knowledge, which I simply don't possess, and I'm not that interested in learning, and I'm not that interested in outsourcing. But it is gonna, because I feel like if people are signing up for that as content, then they are signing up for that based on the content of it, not because it looks pretty. Sure. So yeah, hopefully that's going to do well. But that is going to. I'll find out how well that's worked in the next couple of months. I think so. Yeah. Hello, Brett. Hello, Denise.
Hey guys, if you've got any questions at all, drop them into the comments. We'll be happy to do our best to answer them for you. We've got lots of things to talk about, so we're happy to just carry on jabbering on amongst ourselves. But if you do have any questions, please do drop them in the comments below, and we will answer them.
Yeah, that is why we're here, to answer your questions, because obviously previously we were going live a couple of times a week in the mornings and just kind of chattering away. But we asked you, what did you want us to do? Do you want us to keep doing that, or did you want scheduled lives? So we are now doing scheduled lives. I think the last time I checked the vote, it was literally 100% of people wanted a scheduled live. So
I think so, yeah.
Here it is,
which is great.
So
that's what this is.
And presumably we're going to do the same time next week.
Probably, I'd have thought so. Yeah.
And I imagine that will continue for the foreseeable future, unless we happen to have Monday gigs, which does happen. In fact, I do have a gig next Monday, actually.
So not next week, then?
No, I think I should be back in time. I'll have to check the timings on it, but I think I should be back in time.
We'll work that out. It's kind of semantics, really. That's fine. It's not a big deal. So to move on to what I'm working on at the moment, because of course we were talking about Chris's RSS feed and getting that all set up. What I'm working on, I am building out a new website, not directly because Chris has got a new website and I'm jealous of his new website, although it is heavily influenced by the fact that Chris has got a new website and I'm very jealous of his new website.
As a
Yeah.
percentage, is it 100?
It's 110%
The
because
reason,
I'm jealous of your website, and it's minus 10% because I already wanted to do it.
okay, so, well, I'm glad my website was so good that it inspired you to directly steal my design.
Well, I haven't directly stolen your design. Don't give me that rubbish. So essentially, what happened is I've been on Squarespace. That's where my websites have been for the last 5 or 6 years or so, something like that. And then we built out Wedding Industry Wisdom over the last couple of months. And, well, I say we, Chris, because I had no idea. And we built it on WordPress. Chris built it on WordPress. And I've now seen the power of WordPress, how it works, what it looks like. And I realized that that's where I should be hosting my website. So I'm now having it built out in a brand new form to hopefully increase conversions a little bit and hopefully drive more traffic. That's my big problem and it's always been my problem. And that's the thing is, Chris is great at doing this. Chris is great at driving traffic to his website and generating leads. My problem is I go for higher quality, which means I get less quantity, and I get significantly less quantity on my website, but it converts highly. So, I'm kind of taking a leaf out of Chris's book, seeing that he's using WordPress and how he's using WordPress, and going, maybe that's going to help me somewhat. Being able to see all this SEO stuff going on, and these themes that you can use and all that kind of stuff. So I'm keen to see how this is going to work once I've built it out to see what if I can generate some more traffic to the website.
I think that you will. I think that in Squarespace is good, but I think it does have its limitations. So I think that you will see, I haven't used Squarespace, but just from what I've seen, but the plugins that you can get for WordPress, which can directly tell you how well you're doing your SEO stuff and things like that, is just absolutely incredible, and how readable the page is as well, which is a massive consideration as well. Mark Gerald is watching. Hello, Mark. He's
Hi, Mark.
he's about 400 meters that way. Maybe just on the, oddly enough.
I should
There you
pop in, watch you from your
That's-
bed.
That's just a little bit weird. That's a
Creepy and weird, isn't it?
So yes, something we finished on what you're doing.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the main. I mean, that is the main thing that I'm working on at the moment. I'll be honest. There's not a lot else going on
so
in the business other than working and performing.
yeah. There's two things which I'm now starting to think of, because it is coming back round to wedding fair season again.
Yeah.
I've now run out of business cards, and I'm loath to order any more because I don't know if I'm going to go for a brand refresh. I wouldn't say a rebrand, but a brand refresh. But then I'm also thinking it's wedding fair season, and does my wedding fair stand befit the target market I'm aiming at? So I'm starting to look at some new stuff for my stand, but it's all really expensive. So it's like,
That is the problem, isn't it? It's good. Yeah.
you
If
go,
you
right,
want the good stuff.
you're gonna go, right, I'm gonna, because you can, and it works, and it has worked for me so far. You can just go, right, I'm gonna get a couple of pull-up banners for like 30, 40 quid each, and that's fine. And I have a table as well that I bring along, and it's fine, and it works, and people book me on the day, and I have good success with wedding fairs. But then I'm going, ooh, look at that nice curvy big backdrop thingy that's 400 quid. That will look really, really slick if I buy that. Um, and
Is it? Are you having shiny object syndrome, or is it something that's actually going to help though? Because that's the problem. I think a lot of business owners have shiny object syndrome,
can
and
you explain
then
what that is for
regret
anyone
that
who's
decision.
not?
Shiny object syndrome is shiny thing. So it's you see something new and you go, oh, that looks nice. I would like that, but in reality, you don't actually need it. You like it because it's new, not because it's something you need.
So Denise says, if it helps, we have A6 business cards, just enough info on them, and an optional tear off for email addresses and wedding dates.
It's
That's
quite a nice idea.
interesting.
That's quite a nice idea. I like that. I've not heard that before.
Tear off things, they're not full. I mean, all the information I gather on the day is just taken digitally, unless they don't have Wi-Fi, in which case people write it down, and they are
And they're
shiny.
shiny object. Amazing. Yeah, I know. It sounds like a great idea that to
Yeah.
have those little tear-off things. I think that's a really nice little A6 business card. It's quite a nice idea. Maybe that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting shiny object syndrome.
See, this is the thing that I know that you've seen what my wedding fair setup looks like. It's not
Yeah,
elaborate or
yeah.
anything. It's very kind of
No.
simplistic, and I think it all the branding and colours and stuff works together. But I mean, I think half the time people don't even look at the banners. I think that I think that often people will look at a stand and go, "Oh God, that stand's not very good." But if it's as long as it's not really bad, I think that people don't really care that much. But I could be completely
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that it's a thing that most people have that problem, and it applies across the board. Like when you go on a website, people don't look and like study a website. They have a quick skim on the first instance. They'll have a quick skim and go, yeah, it's not a crap website. At that point, they'll then start to read more. So they'll have a quick look at your stand at a wedding fair and they'll go, yeah, he looks good, or no, he looks crap. And then we'll make their decision as to whether they want to invest more time talking to you or not just by a quick skim.
Yeah,
So I think that you're probably right, is that they're not actually that bothered. They'll go, yeah, it looks like a good website, or it looks like a bad a good stand, or it looks like a bad stand. And as Julie has said, there less is more, which I think is a very true thing in this instance, because you can cram a lot of stuff onto a wedding fair stand if you wanted to, and I've seen people do it before, and it can look truly horrific.
I
So you've got to be very careful with that.
I would go further to say further than it can look horrific. It does look horrific. I think if you've got every square inch covered, so I've got a table that's probably 90 centimeters diameter. Because it's
Sure.
circular, so it's like a cocktail table, essentially what it is. And it's got a cover over it, and on that I have copies of my book, because people get a free copy if they book me on the day. It has my little trifold booklets, and I've got a clipboard for taking down the information should I need to. And then anything magic-wise is in my pockets, and the table doesn't have that much space left after that. But it's a small table and it's not cluttered. Whereas you often see people with like 100 things on their wedding fair stand, and it's just like you're wondering, that just looks too much. So yeah, definitely not a rabbit in the hat. No, sadly not. Health and safety and animal protection rules in wedding fairs doesn't allow it, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
you've
yeah,
asked, have you?
no, I was making a joke, which is less funny now. I have
Sorry.
to explain it. So there we go.
Sorry for ruining the joke.
You're very good at that sort of thing, so it's absolutely fine. But yeah, and I'm also, the other thing I'm wondering about is brochures, or booklets, because, and I don't think this is shiny object syndrome. I think it is categorically something that makes you stand out so much more. But it's getting them designed properly, and they are not cheap either to get printed. So it's not the sort of thing. See, Jack's got like, is that A5?
Yeah,
See, that's what I'm thinking about.
it's.
An A5, 12 pages.
I think it's 16. I think.
16.
I don't know. Can't remember now. Yeah, I think it's an essential. These are old. I don't know where the new ones are. I think they're in the loft, because they're up there with the wedding fair stuff. But yeah, these I consider wedding brochures. For those of you who are listening on the podcast and not actually being able to see what I'm holding in my hands, it's 16. I believe it might be 20-page booklet that is a brochure that goes through all the details on all my packages and everything like that in detail. And I think it is something that really can add a lot to wedding fair season, because people will be able to take something physical away rather than just a business card, or rather than just like, everyone's got a trifold leaflet, everyone's got a business card, not everyone's got a brochure, especially if you can pay. That particular one is a cheaper one because I was on a bit of a budget, and it was it didn't have enough content in it to be able to make it bigger. So it's a smaller one, but that's kind of fine. I was okay with that at the time. Um, and it was a small run to see what they looked like and how they came out. But it makes a big impact if you can give them something decent to take away, like something that's sort of chunkier. They will remember you more. So I
Or
think
a
it is
full
something that's.
book,
If you can give them a full book, yes, Chris, that
which
would
I
be a
have
good
done,
idea, wouldn't it? You have, yeah.
which I do. But I'm not going to ask you how much they cost. But
Oh, you can ask me if you like.
no, it doesn't really matter. Do they cost so much that you are picky about who you want to hand them out to?
No, that particular one at the time, I had business cards that were 1200 GSM, I think. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means quadruple layer. It's extraordinarily thick business cards. Those business cards cost me more per business card than these brochures did to print. So they are not cost prohibitive at all. Obviously, it depends how much you want to spend. The ones I now have that I use at wedding fairs are more expensive. Those were about 30p each, I think. So
Okay.
not a huge amount of money. The ones I now have are about £2.50, I think, a
Okay.
brochure. But it's more in keeping with where my brand is now.
So
So, it's kind of relative.
are you not at all picky about that £2.50?
No,
Not even slightly. So there's somebody like
no.
you never. I know you're definitely not going to book me. You're not like, for instance, yeah, and you were listening to this. You often have someone like it'll be like a mother of the bride who's there without the bride or the groom, who's just come along to do a recce for the venue or something like that. Who's just literally walking up and grabbing leaflets off tables and stuff. Would you let her take one?
It's unlikely to happen at the wedding fairs I go to. The wedding
Yeah.
fairs I exhibit at, you pay to get in as a bride. You pay a decent sum of money to get into as a bride as well. So it's very rare that people come who aren't interested and aren't going to book.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like that question is relevant to me, which is why I can spend £2.50 on a business. Sorry, um, on one of these. Denise says, I think at £2.50 I would only hand those out for
That
those
says
planning.
Julie.
Yeah, which is Julie. Sorry, what did I say?
You said Denise.
Oh, sorry, Julie. My bad. My apologies. I think it depends on your market. So for me, I could hand out a lot of those. I'm not going to give the actual number. I could hand out a lot of them and have one person book, and it would still make me money.
Yeah.
So it's so it's just that's the funniest thing. That's funnier than anything I've said today. She's called me Jock.
Julie wins.
Julie wins. She beats me. I'll give her
Julie
that.
says it's okay, Jock.
I deserve that.
I
So
think Julie and me should do the podcast together.
Denise also makes a good point there. She says, but if she took one, she might show it to the neighbour's twins who are both getting married. You never know, could be worth handing them out. She makes a good point. You never know who they know as well. But as I said, for me, at £2.50, I can afford to give a load of them out and not get anything back. For, I imagine, the majority of people, you would need to you probably need to manage that a little bit more. The majority of people that work for kind of average everyday clients would need to kind of manage that a bit better. But these for normal, in inverted commas, normal clients, kind of everyday brides who have budgets of between 15 and £25,000, something like that. This is 35p, I think, each. And that wasn't a huge run of them either. And
What's
you
the
can
quality
like
like
throw
in the
these out.
hand?
It's good. So it's got a thicker outside page, and then it's a bond stock, so it is it's quite nice. I think it's 170 GSM outside, and I believe it was 150 GSM inside. So yeah, I would thoroughly
It's maybe the
recommend looking
most
into this.
boring section of any one of our lives that we've ever done, talking about paper, the weight of paper used within a. But there is also a lot to be said about this, because I'm very, very strongly of the opinion that the marketing material, the physical marketing material you hand out to couples does have a strong bearing on their instant, you know, thoughts about you. If you're handing over a kind of floppy 80 DSM takeaway menu type flyer that, you know, they've cost you 3p each or something like that, then when people take them, they know that that's really, really cheap. Whereas, you know, if you
Yeah.
get handed a trifold thing that's like 400 DSM, or you get handed a brochure, or you get handed, like, I hand out copies of my book to people who I think are very keen to make a booking with me. When you hand out something like that, it makes a massive difference to, like, people's thoughts about you, because it it's about value. And I think if they think that they are being handed something which is a piece of crap, then they don't feel very valued. Whereas if they get handed something which is obviously very high quality, if it's got embossing on it, if it's shiny, if it's, you know, if it's thick, if it's, you know, if it's a book, if it's a brochure, then people are going to react differently to it and have a different opinion of you based upon what that is.
Yeah. A very good friend of mine, I don't know if you know John T. Sparrow.
I was arguing with
You
him
know of.
yesterday,
Oh yeah, you saw that about Stranger Things. I did see that.
and I'm right.
Or about when you can give spoilers away. Anyway,
Never.
um, he said that if you take a business card, you hold it up to your face and you blow on it, and it starts to flap and it starts to blow in the wind, it goes in the bin. So you need to have, yeah, and I feel like that's something that I've kind of that stuck with me. He said it kind of on a whim, but it was something that really made a difference to me. So it's something I think you should consider with every piece of physical marketing you give out that is paper, is that it needs to be good quality. Unless, of course, you are going for the lower end of the market. If you are going for quantity as opposed to quality, then maybe you should look at maybe a cheaper one. But still, I don't feel like there's an excuse for having takeaway menu thickness, because
I,
it's not a huge amount of money to upgrade a little bit to half decent quality stock.
yeah. Um, I always feel like I'm hating on takeaway menus, but I think it just perfectly sums up exactly what everyone knows about it. But yeah, I mean, if you are operating at the low end of the market, and we've said on like countless times before, it's up to you to decide what portion of the market you want to hit. If you want to hit the low end of the market, that's absolutely fine. And if you want to kind of go as budget as you can to keep like to make your margins as big as possible, that's that's absolutely fine if that's how you want to be doing it. But then you have to get a lot more work to get the same amount of money. So it is difficult. Whereas
Yeah.
at the opposite end of the market, it only takes a couple of cancellations, and all of a sudden your monthly earnings look a little bit different. And that's something that I've had to endure this summer, because I have had to cancel one wedding performance, unfortunately, and the rest of them I kind of got through. For those of you who don't know, I've had a slipped disc for the whole of the wedding season, which has been absolute hell. But yeah, I'm not at the highest end, like Jack is. I'm kind of higher end of the market, so that as soon as a wedding performance is cancelled, that does have an impact on how much I'm earning in that month. Whereas, you miss one gig at the low end of the market, it probably doesn't make too much difference. So there is that sort of thing to consider as well. So yeah,
Yeah, well, it's going off some cool tangents here, aren't we? Going off all over the place. Julie's asked Denise, because I believe both Julie and Denise work in stationery,
yeah.
seeing what the thoughts are on both of theirs, considering they work in this very industry that we're talking about at the moment of paper and stock and all these kind of things, is actually relevant to what they're talking about. So I would be interested to hear if they have any thoughts on either of those while they're still here. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right that when you are working at the higher end, some people assume that working at the higher end is where they want to be, but it's not always right for everyone, because it does come with its associated risks. Of course, you've got to spend more, because you've got to spend more to get each client. Obviously, as I've already said, I was spending £2.50 on each of my brochures, as opposed to the 35p that those ones cost me. So obviously I then have to buy those in larger stock, which means I have to spend more money to get them out in the first place. You then got to look at the actual performing and an actual getting to the gigs and all of those kind of things. Everything starts to cost a little bit more, so there is an associated cost associated with it. Associated cost associated with it. That
It was
was
a, it was a poor,
unnecessary,
that was a
wasn't
poor
it?
sentence. Yeah, and
It was a
things
very
like
poor
wedding fair. I
sentence.
mean, your low end of the market village hall wedding fair will cost you. I mean, I got offered a stand at a wedding fair, and they said it'd be £10, like early this year, and I was just like, I think I'd rather have my Sunday to myself actually. Whereas,
Yeah.
there are other wedding fairs which, I mean, I think the most expensive one I go to is £240, but there are ones which are three, four, £500. You know, but Jack, you're
There are
not
some that are a
smirking.
lot more than that.
Yeah, not in my not local to me.
Yeah, I mean, you can spend upwards of 3.5 grand on a stand. I've been told.
Have you spent three and a half grand for a stand, Jack?
I've spent decent sums of money on stands
Well,
before.
actually, no.
Yes.
The bride show. Actually, I tell a lie. The bride show in Bournemouth, I think, is 2.5 grand, but that's for 3 days. So, um,
Okay.
yeah. But I was more specifically talking about individual venue ones. Which,
Yeah, I think on the whole, that's yeah, exactly that. And Denise has come in here and said that lower GSMs, leaflets and flyers give perception of quality of service. And just to give people an idea, if they don't know what GSM means, it's basically the weight of the paper that
grams
things are
per
being
square
printed.
meter.
Exactly, grams per square meter, and that's basically the weight of the paper. She says anything above 260 GSM is quality. So, and she is a professional in that industry. So I would definitely listen to her there. She's asked me if I've done Olympia or the Excel. I do not. I've never done those, mainly because there'll be 5 or 6 different magicians there at least. So for me, it doesn't seem like it's going to be working for me. It doesn't attract the right kind of clients that I want to be working with. So I don't do those. I can see them being hugely beneficial because obviously they get thousands and thousands of people through the doors every single day over the course of, I think, they're 3-day events. So I think they are well worth doing. So I think if you are working in the market that they're attracting, then I would definitely consider doing it because they are expensive. I don't know how much they are at the moment, but
There are,
you
there,
will.
there are a few thousand, I think.
Yeah, there are a few thousand. Yeah, there you go.
Um,
So
Brett,
I
it's
would
not too late
definitely
to
look at
ask a
it.
question, so ask away and we'll carry on talking and answer your question as it pops up, just to quickly cover that. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that the other difficulty as a magician at something like the Olympia or Excel is that you, I feel personally as if as a magician you have to talk directly to that couple because I don't think you can have an assistant there doing the selling for you because they want to get to know the person who's going to be interacting one-on-one with their guests on that day. They don't want to be speaking to your assistant who will say, do all the selling. Yeah, oh, he'll show you in a card trick when he's not talking to those people, or something like that. So it means that the footfall is going to be practically insignificant. I mean, my favourite level of footfall is moderate. I don't want it to be slow because then it just seems like the day goes on forever and you you end up checking your watch. And I don't want it to be like absolutely hectic because you end up talking to people and then my most annoying thing for me at wedding fair is when I'm talking to a couple who kind of are interested in what I'm doing and whilst I'm talking to them, I can see people who are my ideal clients just walking straight past me. And I know that these people probably, as soon as I start mentioning price, they're going to have their eyes fall out of their head. Whereas the people who are walking past, I know that that's a figure that's going to be completely comfortable for them. So, yeah, I think that anyone who has to be there on the day and deal with people on a one-on-one basis, those huge shows are going to be difficult to justify doing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Brett has asked how much value do you consider there in being always doing giveaways for the bride and grooms? Brett is a magician, just to give people context for that. He's asking, for example, a special trick with a branded giveaway item for the bride and groom. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Chris.
Um, I think that, well, I'm more than happy to say that one of the things that I include in all of my, actually, no, I don't include it in my bottom package because I don't want anyone to book that anyway. But when I'm performing any of my other packages, as I'm going around performing, I will get cards signed by people as I'm doing card tricks and get them to write messages. And essentially, at the end of that pack of cards is essentially, it has no value to me, really. However, for the bride and groom, if it's got things saying "Have a fantastic day" and people's signature being there and hearts and kisses and the little 2-year-old who's drawn a cat for a trick or something like that, it's that is inherently has some sentimental value. How much is it worth? It's worth £2. Sentimentally, or the pack of cards that they've used on the day, inherently to them that has a lot more value. So it's about how you frame that. I don't think with a lot of things it's difficult to put them as an upsell. So I wouldn't do that. But what I would do is if it was a route I wanted to go down, I would include as many of those things as I could that without seeming like I was going overboard, and include that in the normal cost of my service, rather than it's this much and then if you want the souvenir tricks, they're £200. And then when they find out what the souvenir tricks are, they go, "What? I get a block of plastic and I get a pack of cards. What? Why is that £200?" So it's the same thing, but just viewed in a slightly different way. That's probably my thoughts on it, I think.
Yeah, so I think that at times people place too much emphasis on trying to get everything branded in one way or another. I think something that is going to be a special trick, in this particular instance, a special trick you're going to give away to the bride and groom, I personally wouldn't want it to be covered in my branding or even subtly put my branding on it. It's something that's for them to keep, and I do have giveaways that I keep for them, and I give them, they get to keep forever and all those kind of things. I think they are a really great thing to do, because especially if you can do tricks that are going to be, as mutual friend of ours, Ken Dine, I'm sure Brett will know who he is as well, calls them undrawables. Essentially, it's things you can't fit in a drawer, so they have to stay out. If you can give them impossible things and things that are amazing, that are undrawable, they're going to keep them out, and they're going to become a talking point beyond the wedding. If you, just to be very specific with a very specific example that I personally don't do, but I know people do, they do signed Rubik's Cube in glass bottle. That is something that they can sit on the mantelpiece and will become a talking point for years to come, and they will always go, "Oh yeah, it was." Someone will say, "Oh, what's that up there?" And they'll say, "Oh, Brett came to our wedding, and or Brett Cyril came to our wedding. He was amazing, and he did this at the end of it." And put and then they'll tell the story about how you did that. So I don't think everything needs to be branded. It kind of has inherent branding when they tell the story. It should trigger a story, and it shouldn't always be. What does that say there? Oh, Brett Cyril, I probably don't want to book him because he's got his name all over this Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, I mean, I missed the word branded there. In terms of branding, I don't think your branding has any place on any souvenir item. The branding is the memory that is associated with it. I mean, the kind of deluxe version of deluxe performance I do for a bride and groom, the giveaway is 2 pieces of paper. And Jack knows exactly what that is. But it has none of my branding on it whatsoever. And to be honest, I didn't even think for a second to include my branding, because my only thought when creating that for a couple is I want this to be as strong and impactful as possible. So yeah, the branding, in my opinion, the branding should be nowhere near it, and the value should be included in the cost, because it's very, very difficult to put a price on it that doesn't sound like far too much, because people are never going to pay the price that you want for it, but you include it, then they'll pay the extra for it without realizing it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Let us know what you think about that as an answer, Brett. Be interested to have some feedback on that as we kind of talk on it a little bit there.
I mean, I feel like we're kind of coming towards the end of this now, hopefully, unless we've got some more questions. Denise says she doesn't brand anything aside from weddings. We have a funeral stationery business and wouldn't dream of putting our branding on any of it. Yeah, and that's exactly right. As I don't think it, and Brett agrees, same thoughts on branding. I think it is one of those things that the memories create the branding, because you want them to tell the story, because if they tell the story about how you did what you did in this particular example, then it's going to create an emotion within the person they're telling, rather than that person just looking at it and going, oh yeah, that's a Rubik's Cube in a glass jar, that's kind of cool, but it doesn't mean anything, it's got no meaning to them. So I would 100% think about it in the terms of creating a story that people are going to remember and going to be able to retell, and that will be the branding sorted
Yeah,
for you.
I think this ties in with something that was on one of the Magic groups the other day, was saying about referral systems, and about, how do you get people to refer you? What systems do you have in place to get a bride and groom to recommend you to their friends and things like that? And I think that the apps, because essentially the only reason you'd ever put your branding on a souvenir, giveaway souvenir or something like that, is for furthering business opportunities, which I think would never ever leave a good taste in the mouth of a bride and groom, or a bride and bride, or a groom and groom. They're never going to appreciate that. That's just going to look like you're trying to get more work out of them. I think that the best and only good referral system there is to be a nice person beforehand, be as helpful as you can, get the booking. Once you've got the booking, continue to be good. On when you go and do what you do at the wedding, whatever that might be, you do it to the very best of your ability, and even better than you said you were going to do it. And then afterwards, follow up with them and express your genuine gratitude for having them be part of a massive day in their lives. And then potentially say, do you know anyone else who's getting married? And that is it. I mean, people have spoken to me and said, oh, do you think I should offer them like £50 if they recommend someone else? I was like, no, absolutely not, because the people who do want to recommend you will not require any, you know, any money exchanging hands.
Yeah, Brett's asking if giveaways create much follow-on work. It's one of those things that's unquantifiable. Yeah, couldn't possibly say. I think so, but I don't know for certain whether it's that specifically that is creating me more work. But I'm not going to stop doing it because it might not be creating me more work, because it's something that people enjoy, and I'm now seeing a very beautiful picture of Chris's thumb.
I was scrolling. Sorry.
Yes, all right. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things we can't possibly quantify. Denise also says, I think of any supplier, cake, Toastmaster, stationery, etc. If they're good enough, guests will ask who they are, etc. It's very true. You need to, if you do a good job at someone's wedding, and even if you don't have business cards, you don't give out any business cards, you don't do any of that stuff. If someone sees you at a wedding, really likes what you do, and wants you at their wedding, they will ask the bride and groom where they found you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the kind of level. That's what you want to be doing. You want to be at that level where you are creating such strong memories that you are the only person they want to come to, and they will go to any length to find you.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I'm not sure where your head's at with what you're thinking at the moment with regards to giveaways and souvenirs and that sort of thing, Brett. But I think that, like, when you are performing or when you are doing whatever service anyone does on a wedding day, your sole focus should be trying to do the absolute best job possible, not like thinking, how am I going to get more work out of this? Because if you blow people away, or you provide a fantastic service, or you create a cake which unlike anyone has ever seen before, it will naturally create you more work. It's basically an absolute given. I mean, you obviously you want to make sure people know who you are. And if you're a magician like me and Jack are, there's no point in. I mean, when you go over to a table, when you go over to a group, you've got to be introducing yourself. You've got to be saying who you are, and then when you leave them, you've got to remind them of your name and things like that. So, you don't want people saying the magician. You want people saying, "Oh, where's Brett? I want to see. I want to see Brett. I want to see Brett do another trick." So make sure people know your name. But that's just kind of common courtesy anyway. But yeah, just do an amazing job. I think that souvenirs at best I'm not even a 1%er in terms of getting future work.
He's asking, so Brett's thoughts on a giveaway has come from a trick he's trying to work on at the moment. Naturally creates a memory item, so something that you can keep, and that's, yeah. So you should be thinking about that, how you can turn that into a story that's going to be retold over and over and over again. And the same applies for any business outside of Magic as well, as how can you create memories that are going to last forever and ever and ever and going to be retold about how you did this and you went the extra mile, you did something unexpected, or your cake was so extraordinary, or all of these things that you can do that are going to take you up a notch and going to make the bride and groom and the guests talk about you for years to come. That's what you want to be doing with anything that you're doing, especially when you're a magician and you're looking to put in a new trick, is how can you make that memory last a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to share. Actually, no, I'm not even going to say it because it's such a secret that I'm not even going to share it. Not even Jack knows this, so I'm not. No, I nearly.
Well, I'm definitely pestering you for it tomorrow.
Feel free to. You'll probably steal it like you steal most of my good ideas. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So I don't. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up with just a few things about where you can find more information and what we can do to help you. If any other questions pop up, we will happily answer them. But Jack, what's a good starting point with wedding industry wisdom, do you think?
I would say the best place to go, if you are listening on the podcast, then I would head over to www.weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk. That is where you'll be able to find out all about us, what we do, and we've got some courses on there, we've got some free stuff. You can head over to our quiz where you can find out in 57 seconds or less, maybe 58. You can find out exactly where your weakness is in your business and what you need to do. And we also give you a very handy little booklet for you to be able to work on that problem and come to a solution to help grow your business almost instantaneously. We also have lots of courses on there that you can go and purchase and get a lot of value from. You can also head over to our Facebook group, which is Wedding Industry Wisdom Group, I believe. I always forget what it's called, but I think it's Wedding Industry Wisdom Group, which is an incredibly inventive name. Chris came up with it, not me. Or you can find us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, which is Wedding Industry Wisdom. Just search for it in Facebook and you will find us there.
All very good. And we obviously have our free course as well, How to Run a Successful Wedding Business. This is a completely free course. It is 2 hours long. Yes, what's over 2 hours? 2 hours and 6 minutes or something like that. 8 different units of the different things you need to cover in order to run a successful wedding business. And this is not just for beginners. Beginners will get the most out of it, but there are bits and pieces that I learned along the way from Jack, and Jack learned along the way from me. And that, like I said, that is completely free. And then, for those who want to advance up to the next level with things, there are courses available to buy as well. But yeah, your best starting place is weddingindustrywisdom.co.uk. Brett says, like the 7 p.m. ping, how do get it to ping?
How do you get notifications to work? If you go, we tend to go live. Well, I imagine we'll continue to do this in the group. So if you head over into the group and you click, you'll see up in the top there's a button that says notifications. If you click all, show all, or notify all, I think it's something like that, then you'll be notified every time that we go live in the group.
Yep, so do that. And we don't have the website address for this yet, but as Jack let slip earlier, this is the first episode of our podcast, Wedding Industry Wisdom Podcast, which I came up with the idea for that name. Because
the name may change.
Yeah. Because we have become aware that a hour-long live is very unconsumable, shall we say, in terms of like watching it back. Whereas an hour-long recording you can listen to on a dog walk or driving in the car or whatever is infinitely more listenable too. So that will be coming out at some point this week. Julie says, do you guys ever work together? You make a good double act. We've never even met. So how about that?
No, we haven't. We've never actually met in real life. That is true.
We have been in the same room together, we think.
We have, yeah. We've definitely been in the same room together, but we've never actually met.
So how about that? It's just natural chemistry, and then Jack does what he does as well.
That sums us up for today. We'll be back soon with another live, but thank you so much. We'll be back soon.
Cheers. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.